If someone had told me that I'd finally find clarity in a room full of finger food and fluorescent smiles, I would have laughed and kept sipping my lukewarm coffee. But that's exactly what happened right there in front of a carved ice sculpture shaped like the company logo, with a saxophonist playing Marvin Gaye in the background. My name's Elton, not the singer, just a quiet 43-year-old IT compliance analyst from Roanoke, Virginia, who wears the same 3 cardigans in rotation and counts ceiling tiles when rooms get too loud. I've never been good at speaking up. I'm the guy who apologizes when someone bumps into me, the one who types "sorry for the delay," even if I responded within 5 minutes. The guy women usually overlook unless they need help recovering a corrupted PDF. My wife's name is Kendra Beautiful, magnetic sharp as glass. She works in brand partnerships for the same company. She used to call me Elle, which somehow made me feel taller than I am. We've been married for 8 years, no kids, 2 fish. You always forget to feed, and lately too many nights, where she works late, and I sit in our quiet apartment staring at a cold dinner, wondering if she still likes mushroom risotto, or if that was just something she pretended to enjoy. But what changed everything wasn't a text or lipstick on a collar or even a confession. It was a feather, a single black crow feather. It was tucked inside her work planner, right between pages, filled with her perfect cursive handwriting and color-coded meetings. I found it by accident while looking for a receipt she needed. I asked her about it jokingly, thinking it was some trendy symbol or part of a new campaign. She froze. Then, with a smile too slow and too soft to be real, she said, "It's nothing, just a silly inside thing for my team." And that was it. She walked into the bathroom, and I stood there, holding that feather like it was burning through my hand. You know how people say, "Your gut knows mine didn't just know it screamed," but I didn't say anything. Not then. Not even when she got another one, this time left on her car seat after she came back from a strategy offsite, or when I noticed she changed her phone password, or when she started humming unfamiliar songs in the shower and smiling like someone else was watching. No, I waited like a coward, like I always do, until the gala, until the night. She reached for my hand and I whispered the words I never thought I'd be able to say. But I'll get to that, because first, I need to tell you what happened before the event, what I discovered, what I endured, and what I saw, and how a quiet cardigan-wearing man finally shattered. It was the Tuesday before the gala when I hit a new kind of low. The apartment was silent. No soft jazz from Kendra's side of the Spotify account. No clatter of her keys as she came in late, pretending to be surprised I was still up. Just me, a cup of weak tea, and her laptop bag, sitting by the door like a silent witness. That bag, brown leather, polished, expensive. I'd seen it more than I'd seen her face lately. For months, I'd felt like a guest in my own marriage, orbiting her world, but never quite landing. She was always either in a call, prepping a pitch, or just wiped. That's how she said it now. Just wiped, as if my presence itself exhausted her. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was the feather still tucked in my nightstand drawer, or maybe it was the fact that I hadn't heard her laugh with me in weeks. But that night when she left to grab a late drink with the team, I did something I never thought I'd do. I checked her voicemail. Now, look, I'm not proud of it. I'm not the snooping type. I'm the type who leaves post-it notes that say, "Found your charger, yellow heart," and thinks that's a love language. But something broke in me that evening. I knew her password. She used the same one for everything. Our first cat's name oddly capitalized. When the voicemail screen popped up, there were only 3 messages. I only listened to one. It was from a man. Smooth voice, confident. The kind of tone that has no need to explain itself. He didn't say his name. "Just got your note." Made me smile. I'll be the one. In Black Room 714. Same as last time. Bring that wicked laugh of yours. You owe me. I didn't breathe for 30 seconds. I played it again. My hands were shaking, but I hit replay. I wanted to believe I heard it wrong. I wanted it to be part of a prank, but deep down, something inside me nodded, like it had been waiting for this truth to arrive. I didn't confront her that night. No big shouting match, no dramatic scene. That's not me. I just stared at her the next morning as she pulled on her blazer and asked if the coffee tasted burn again. And I remember thinking, how many times have I made her breakfast while she carried someone else's kiss on her lips? That day, I didn't go to work. I called in sick and spent hours pacing the living room, opening and closing the fridge without knowing why. At one point, I grabbed her bag, not to snoop, but because I was numb and couldn't think. That's when I noticed her company ID had been swapped for a second one. A different badge, black and gold. No name, just a crow. And I thought again of the feathers. That night, she didn't come home. She texted me, though, "Don't wait up, babe. It's a brainstorm. Marathon LOL. Love you." She'd never once used LOL in her life. I didn't respond. I just turned off my phone, curled up on the couch, and lay there awake until 5:12 a.m. when I heard the front door creak open and the soft clink of heels being removed in the dark. She thought I was asleep. And in a way, I didn't know it then. But the version of me that loved her so purely had already died that night. The man who stayed up planning anniversary trips, who noticed when she changed her shampoo, who bought little gifts, just because I think he vanished the moment that voicemail ended. All that was left was the man who started to count the days until the gala, because I was going and I was going to wear the gray suit she hated, with the collar slightly wrinkled, and my old sneakers instead of polished shoes. Not to impress her, not even to reclaim anything, but because I needed her to see what she broke. And I wanted to be standing tall when she tried to reach for the pieces. The official email invite to the gala hit my inbox 3 days before the event. I wasn't supposed to be on the list. I never had been before. These things were usually reserved for executives in their loose ones. But there it was clear as day, sent by the VP's assistant. My name spelled right for once. A little gold digital envelope flashing at the top of my screen. The subject line: "You're cordially invited to Blackwell and Easton's annual Legacy Night." I stared at it for a while, not because I was surprised, but because something in my gut told me she'd arranged it. It had her fingerprints all over it last minute. Dramatic and just subtle enough to seem casual. I imagined her smirking at her desk, thinking maybe this would be her olive branch, that I'd show up, put on a brave face, play the husband role in front of her colleagues, and go home, pretending none of this had fractured me. What she didn't realize was that I wasn't going there for her. Not anymore. The day before the event, I did something unexpected. I booked an appointment at a tattoo parlor 3 blocks from our building. Not the sleek kind of place with neon signs and indie music, but a dusty little corner spot with an old man named Well who smelled like motor oil and had lines of poetry etched all down his arms. I didn't go for anything dramatic. Just one word etched on the inside of my left wrist, where only I could see it when my sleeve lifted just enough. Enough. Not in anger, not Esri. Venge. Not to impress anyone, just to remind myself of the moment I stopped waiting to be chosen. That night she came home earlier than usual. Anyway, she bought groceries, cooked pasta, set the table, used the good plates. She even lit a candle, the one we got in Charleston during our 3rd anniversary trip. The one she once said smelled like the ocean and vanilla I could barely eat. "Are you nervous about the event?" she asked over dinner, twirling her fork. "You didn't RSVP yet?" I swallowed, pretending to be focused on the noodles. "I figured I'd show up. Seemed important to you." She paused just for a second, but I caught it. The smallest flicker of something in her eyes. Surprise, relief, guilt. It vanished quickly. She smiled again, that same curated expression she gave during client meetings. "It'll be nice," she said. We haven't gone out in a while. That part was true. We hadn't gone anywhere as a couple in almost 4 months. No dinners, no dates, no random walks. Like we used to take through the neighborhood park. Just two people in the same apartment, navigating each other's silences like landmines. That night, I lay awake beside her, listening to the rhythm of her breathing. Her back was turned to me like it had been for so many nights now. I stared at the ceiling, counting the faint glimmers of passing cars that flashed across our window, and I thought about how far someone has to drift before they can lie beside you every night and still feel like a stranger. In the morning, I woke up to a surprise. There was a box at the foot of the bed gift, wrapped with a little note that said, "Faux. Our tomorrow night, Kay." Inside was a dark navy tie silk designer. I recognized the brand because I'd seen it before on the receipt I found a month earlier, which she claimed was for a client. It still had the tag on it, still smelled like the store, and I stood there holding it like it meant something. But it didn't. It wasn't a peace offering. It was camouflage, a way to make me blend in, to play the role, to not ask questions. But I had questions, and I wasn't going to keep them in anymore. The night of the gala arrived wrapped in a thick gray fog, the kind that seemed to crawl into your bones. The second you stepped outside, I drove us there in silence. Kendra tapping distractedly on her phone. The entire ride, I caught glimpses of her screen a few times. Burst of emojis, a picture. I couldn't quite make out. Lots of laughing faces. None of it sent to me. The hotel was one of those places you only see in luxury magazines. All chandeliers and endless mirrors, where every footstep sounds like it costs $500. As we walked through the marm, the lobby, I noticed how Kendra straightened her posture, how she let her hand brush lightly against mine, but didn't hold it, how her eyes kept scanning the crowd before we even reached the ballroom. She was looking for someone, and it wasn't me. Inside the place was a swirl of black suits and silver dresses, clinking glasses and fake laughs. Tables were decorated with towering vases of white lies and strange twisted branches. A jazz trio played too loudly in the corner, and waiters buzzed between the guests, carrying little trays of food I couldn't name. Kendra smiled like a politician, leading me through groups of coworkers and department heads, introducing me in a breezy voice, like I was part of her accessories for the evening, watch clutch husband. I shook hands, nodded muttered safe lines like, "Nice to meet you." And looks like a great turnout. But the truth was I barely registered the people. My mind kept circling back to the voicemail, to the crow feathers, to the second badge with no name, and to the heavy feeling sinking deeper into my chest with every forced conversation. About an hour in, Kendra excused herself, saying she needed to check in with the PR coordinator. She gave me a quick kiss on the cheek, like someone congratulating a child for behaving well, and disappeared into the sea of glittering gowns and tailored tuxedos. I didn't follow her. Instead, I wandered over to the bar and ordered a club soda. No lime, no garnish. Just something to hold in my hand so I wouldn't look as hollow as I felt. While I sipped and watched a man slid up next to me. Tall, confident black suit, black shirt, no tie. He didn't even glance at me. His eyes were on the ballroom, scanning like a wolf in a field of rabbits. I recognized him immediately. Though I had never seen his face before, I recognized him because of the crow pin. Gleaming on his lapel, the exact same symbol from Kendra's hidden batch. He leaned casually against the bar and murmured something to the bartender. His voice, it was unmistakable. It matched the one from the voicemail, as if the sound itself carried the memory of that night into my bones. And then I knew. I knew exactly what he was to her. I knew what she had been doing. During those late-night brainstorms and last-minute pitches. I should have felt rage. I should have wanted to break the glass in my hand, but I didn't. All I felt was a strange, raw emptiness, a hole so wide inside me that the noise of the room couldn't even reach it. And that's when she appeared again. Kendra, gliding across the floor in her navy dress, smiling too brightly, moving too quickly. I watched as she made a beeline, not for me, but for him. I watched the way her hand briefly brushed against his jacket sleeve, a gesture so small and practiced that no one else would have noticed it meant anything. But I did. I saw everything, and as of sensing my gaze, she turned toward me. Her smile faltered for a millisecond. Just a blink. Just enough. Then, pretending nothing had happened, she started walking back toward me, weaving through the crowd like the actress she had become. That's when it hit me. The devastating realization that the woman I married wasn't walking toward me at all. She was walking toward her alibi, and I was it. I gripped my glass tighter and breathed slowly through my nose, trying to steady myself for what came next, because when she reached for me, when she reached out that delicate hand, still wearing the gold bracelet I gave her for our 5th anniversary, I was going to do something I never imagined myself doing. I was going to break the script, and for the first time in years, I wasn't going to smile and accept the lie. She reached for me like she always had, graceful, poised, confident, that I would step into the familiar dance we had perfected over years of appearances. Her fingers brushed my wrist, a soft and delicate touch me, and to signal connection, comfort, ownership. But everything inside me recoiled as if her touch was ice against skin, already cracked and bleeding. I looked at her, really looked at her past. The perfect makeup, the carefully chosen dress, the dazzling smile crafted to fool boardrooms and brunch tables alike. And what I saw behind her eyes wasn't love. It wasn't even guilt. It was calculation. A mind already several steps ahead, working angles I would never be part of again. I leaned in close enough that no one else could hear, close enough that she smelled the weight of my words before I even spoke them. And in the softest, calmest voice I could manage, I whispered, "Not after this." Her face didn't crumble. It didn't twist in horror like I stupidly expected it might. Instead, there was a flicker of confusion, quickly masked by a sharp intake of breath and a tightening of her jaw. She blinked once, twice. Her hand hesitated in the air between us fingers, twitching like they were trying to summon a new plan fast enough. You to save the night. But it was too late. I straightened, stepped back, and set my untouched glass down on the bar, with a soft click that sounded far louder to me than the buzz of the room. I didn't make a scene. I didn't shout or accuse or beg for an explanation. I simply walked away, 1 step, 2 steps, and then the crowd swallowed me whole. Behind me, I heard her call my name, once softly the way you might call a dog. You expect will come running, but I didn't stop. I didn't turn, I didn't even flinch. I just kept moving through the ballroom, past the fake smiles and the clinking glasses, past the mirrored walls reflecting a version of me I no longer recognized. Out into the lobby, through the heavy gold-trimmed doors. Into the night, the fog was thicker now, swallowing the city in a damp, heavy silence. I stood there on the sidewalk, feeling the weight of it pressed down on my shoulders. And for a moment, I thought I might collapse under it all. But I didn't. I walked to my car, slid behind the wheel, and slid in the dark hands on the steering wheel, breathing, letting the betrayal settle into my bones, where it belonged. My phone buzzed in my pocket, frantic and relentless. I didn't need to look to know it was her. I imagined her standing alone inside that glittering ballroom, panic slowly setting in, realizing that for once, the narrative had slipped from her control. She could spin a lot of things, but not this. I didn't answer. I didn't even read the messages as they stacked up one after another. Instead, I started the car and drove. Not home. Not back to the life that had been so carefully constructed around half-truths and silent sacrifices. I drove nowhere. Really just out into the veins of the sleeping city, letting the empty streets carry me farther and farther away from the person I had been. It wasn't just the end of a marriage that night, it was the end of me, being the quiet one, the forgiving one, the fool who mistook patience for love and endurance for loyalty. I didn't know exactly where I was headed, but for the first time in years, I was finally the one choosing the direction I drove, until the city thinned into empty service roads and forgotten motel, until the lights blurred into a single endless smear across the windshield. My phone kept buzzing in my jacket pocket, each vibration a ghost clawing at my ribs. But I didn't touch it. I didn't need to hear her voice again. Not now. Maybe not ever. It wasn't until I hit the edge of a nameless town, 3 gas stations, a diner, and a liquor store, that I finally pulled over. The diner was still open, flickering its neon coffee 247 sign. Into the misty night, I sat in a booth alone, surrounded by cracked vinyl seats and the faint smell of burnt toast, staring at a chipped mug of coffee. I had no intention of drinking. I should have been angry. I should have wanted to tear something apart, smash a plate, scream into the empty parking lot. But instead, there was just this cold, hollow ache inside me, like something vital had been scooped out and thrown away. I don't know how long I sat there, watching the condensation run down the windows, before I finally opened my phone. 37 missed calls, 12 text messages, all from Kendra. The text started simple. "Where are you, Walker? Please come back. It's not what you think." Then they shifted, panicked, pleading. "We can talk about this, please. You're scaring me. Come home." The last one hit me harder than the rest. "I love you." Funny how 3 words that once made my heart race now just made me feel tired. I didn't reply. Instead, I thumbed through my gallery and found a photo I hadn't looked at in months. A selfie she took of us during a cabin trip 2 winters ago. Her cheeks pink from the cold, her hand clutching mine like it meant everything. I stared at it for a long time, trying to connect this woman to the one who had touched that stranger's sleeve. Like a secret handshake, I couldn't. They weren't the same. Maybe they never had been. I spent the rest of the night in that booth, nursing that single coffee, thinking about every little moment I had overlooked. Every late meeting, every distant smile, every hollow apology that I'd accepted, because it was easier than believing the alternative. When the sky finally started to lighten with the pale gray of an approaching dawn, I made a decision. Not out of anger, not out of revenge, but out of something quieter, heavier. A finality that didn't leave room for second chances. I got up, paid for the coffee, and drove home. The apartment was exactly as we had left it. Too clean, too staged, too empty. Her keys were on the counter, her heels by the door, her perfume lingering in the air like a ghost. I moved through the room, silently opening drawers, gathering what little of mine truly mattered. My laptop, a few books, an old flannel shirt she always teased me about. I didn't touch anything that belonged to her. I didn't leave a note. No dramatic farewell, just absence. By the time she stumbled through the door around 8:30, still in her gala dress, barefoot and wild-eyed, the place already looked different. Half alive, half dead. She saw me standing there with my bag and froze. "Walker." She gasped, voice cracking. "Please." I shook my head, slow and deliberate. There were 1,000 things I could have said. How could you? Why I for so long? Was I ever enough? But I didn't say any of them. I just looked at her. Really looked at her one last time, memorizing the face of the woman I once thought would never hurt me. Then I walked past her out the door and didn't look back. Not once. Because when someone chooses to gamble with your heart, they're not supposed to get another chance to place the bet again. In the days that followed, I learned something they never warn you about in marriage counseling or heartbreak songs. It's not the fights that leave the deepest bruises. It's the silence afterward. The silence when you wake up alone in a borrowed guest room, staring at a ceiling you don't recognize, trying to remember how you ever thought love was something that could be patched with apologies and vacations, the sea. Lents when you turn off your phone because you can't bear to hear her name flash across the screen anymore. The silence inside your own head, asking yourself over and over, was it me? Was it something I did or didn't do? I stayed at my old college buddy Nolan's place. He had a spare room above his garage that smelled like paint thinner and old newspapers. But at least it was real, not curated, not pretending. Nolan didn't ask many questions, which was a blessing. Just grunted when I showed up with a duffel bag and handed me a beer. He didn't need to ask. He knew Kendra, meanwhile, filled the space. I left behind with 1,000 frantic attempts to pull me back, voicemails, emails, messages from mutual friends, half-truths, disguised as confessions, tearful declarations, promises of counseling, begging to meet one last time just to talk. She even sent a long letter handwritten on fancy stationery, full of shaky apologies and desperate rationalizations about feeling lost, needing excitement, not meaning to hurt me. She tried to spin it into a story where we were both at fault, where somehow I had drifted too far and she had simply stumbled into someone else's arms out of loneliness, as if betrayal was an accident you tripped into. Like a puddle on the sidewalk, I didn't answer. Not because I wanted to hurt her, but because for the first time, I realized answering would mean pretending again. Pretending that what broke between us was something that could be glued back together with enough pretty words and staged date nights. And I was done pretending. Meanwhile, the company. Grapevine did what it does best. Whispers about Kendra and the man with the crow pin spread like wildfire. I heard from Nolan's girlfriend, who worked 2 floors below Kendra, that HR had launched a quiet investigation after several anonymous complaints. Apparently, I wasn't the only one who noticed the strange after-hours meetings, the sudden promotions, the way certain executives seemed untouchable. Karma, it seemed, wasn't always swift, but it was thorough. Still, none of that mattered to me anymore. My war wasn't with Kendra. It wasn't even with the man she chose over me. It was with the version of myself that thought loyalty could earn love. That thought being go. Odd enough meant being loved back the same way every night, lying in Nolan's guest bed with the distant sound of crickets and passing trucks outside the window. I thought about the years I had poured into a marriage that wasn't even real by the end. I thought about every small betrayal I hadn't noticed, every slight I had forgiven without asking for anything in return. And I realized something simple, something obvious, something I should have seen years ago. I had been starving in that marriage, mistaking crumbs for a feast. And the saddest part wasn't that Kendra had betrayed me. It was that I had betrayed myself first by staying silent for so long. The fog that used to sit heavy in my chest started to lift just a little. Like dawn clawing its way over a bruised horizon, I didn't know what my future looked like. But I knew one thing for sure. It wasn't going to have her in it. Not after this. 6 weeks after I left, I signed the divorce papers without fanfare. No dramatic courtroom scenes, no weeping apologue. Eyes in front of a judge. Just a few cold signatures under lines of text that split our shared life into neat legal sections. Assets, debts, freedom. Kendra tried to call me again the night the final documents were filed. I didn't answer. I didn't even listen to the voicemail she left. Some doors once closed aren't meant to open again, no matter how many times someone knocks. And deep down, I think we both knew that I moved into a small apartment above a bookstore, downtown, a crooked little place with uneven floors and a leaky faucet that sang at night. It wasn't much, but it was mine. No curated photos on the walls, no fake smiles and silver frames, just stacks of books, a secondhand couch, and a window that caught the evening sun just right. At first, the loneliness was brutal. Some mornings I woke up with a heaviness pressing down on my chest, and I had to sit at the edge of the bed breathing slow and steady, just to remind myself I had made the right choice. But little by little, the ache dulled, became bara. Blee. Then without warning, one day I realized it was gone. I started running again, something I hadn't done since college. Not because I was training for anything, but because it felt good to have my heart pound for something other than fear or sorrow. I started visiting Nolan and his girlfriend for dinners, laughing too hard at bad jokes, staying too late, because it felt good to be seen without conditions. I even picked up painting, something I'd always secretly wanted to try, but never had the nerve to thinking it was silly or not practical. Turns out smearing colors onto a canvas without caring if it was good or bad was the most freeing thing I'd ever done. One night while browsing the shelves downstairs, I met someone. Her name was Darcy. She wasn't glamorous or dressed like she walked off a magazine cover. She wore glasses too big for her face and always smelled faintly of sawdust and lavender. She talked about books, like they were living things, like every story mattered. And when she smiled, it ain't polished or practiced. It was real. We didn't rush into anything. We didn't pretend to be more healed than we were. We were just two bruised people finding comfort in each other's company, one awkward coffee date at a time. And that was enough. It's strange, really, how sometimes the worst thing that ever happens to you can be the thing that sets you free, how heartbreak can hollow you out just enough to make space for something better. I don't hate Kendra. I don't wish her misery. I wish her the honesty she couldn't give me. I hope she finds whatever it was she was chasing. All those nights she chose someone else. But me, I found something better than forgiveness. I found myself, and this time, I'm not giving him up for anyone.